You would never pour a slab without checking the structural drawings, yet builders regularly sign their commercial contracts without checking the fine print. In Western Australia, the most expensive construction disputes almost never start on the site. They start on paper, buried inside clauses that were either unread or misunderstood before the job began. Contract drafting relies on the fair share principle. Think of commercial risk like a structural load path. Every risk, delays, bad weather, ground conditions, has a physical weight, and it has to land somewhere. A fair contract transfers that weight to the party best equipped to manage it. When a contract is aggressively amended, that load path breaks. Commercial risk gets shifted onto a builder who lacks the site control or the profit margin to carry it. The result is structural failure of the business. Mastering the physical hazards of a site won't protect your margin if you operate commercial blind to the paperwork. Before we audit the specific clauses, there is a hard floor underneath every construction project in WA, the Building and Construction Industry Security of Payment Act, or SOAPA. SOAPA is a statutory safety net that overrides your contract. It guarantees you the right to submit payment claims, access fast-track adjudication, and legally suspend work if you aren't paid. Principals frequently write payment terms that conflict with these timelines. Legally, those hostile clauses are void. Your statutory rights hold firm. But SOAPA only protects your right to get paid what you're owed. It doesn't rewrite a bad deal. To protect the actual profitability of the job, you still have to dismantle the traps inside the contract itself. Our contract audit starts with the 4 clauses that dictate how much cash can leave your business. First is the general liability cap. This is a contractual ceiling on the total damages you can be forced to pay the principal. Without a cap, your exposure is technically unlimited. A single breach that causes massive consequential loss can generate a damages bill that exceeds the entire value of the contract and bankrupts your company. Ensure your liability is capped, commonly at 100% of the contract value. Then read the carve-outs. Market standard exclusions cover fraud, personal injury, and IP breaches. Anything beyond that is a red flag. Next are delay liquidated damages. These represent a pre-agreed daily dollar penalty the principal can extract from you for every day the job misses practical completion. If you're a subcontractor, be extremely careful here. Head contractors sometimes pass down the principal's daily penalty and then add their own indemnity on top, hitting you twice for the exact same delay. Item 3 is indemnities. An indemnity is a separate legal promise to compensate the principal for specific losses, and it bypasses the normal rules of breach of contract. Principals push for broad indemnities, but your insurance broker will push back. If the clause forces you to pay for damages that your policy specifically excludes, that cash comes out of your own pocket. Finally, security retentions. Holding back cash or demanding uncapped bank guarantees traps your working capital inside a finished project, starving your business of the funds required to mobilize for the next job. Capping your financial exposure and demanding a definitive expiry date for your retentions is the only way to guarantee the margin on paper actually makes it to your bank account. When a job runs late, you deal with 2 distinct mechanisms: an extension of time, which stops those daily liquidated damages from triggering, and delay costs, which reimburse you for site overheads. Without an entitlement to delay costs, you are funding site sheds and supervision for free. But the larger threat is the concurrency carve-out. Modern contracts often dictate that if a principal-caused delay and your own delay overlap, you receive 0 time relief. Always push for a broad list of qualifying delays and negotiate for apportionment. Each delay event must be assessed on its own individual merits. Then there are time bars. This condition precedent dictates you must submit a claim within a rigid window. Courts enforce these strictly. Missing a 10-day notice by a single day permanently kills a valid claim. No relief, no discretion. Gone. Mandate achievable notice windows, 14 days minimum, and load every single deadline into your site compliance register the moment the ink dries. When time risk is aggressively shifted onto you, the inevitable supply constraints and weather delays of Western Australia transform from operational challenges into guaranteed financial losses. Clause 7 deals with the ground itself, latent conditions. These are physical hazards in, on, or under the site that could not reasonably be anticipated from the tender data. If the contract shifts this risk entirely onto you, the project becomes a financial lottery ticket. Any uncharted bedrock or contaminated fill becomes your exclusive cost to remove. This is a severe exposure in WA. Pockets of highly reactive clay profiles in the eastern suburbs, acid sulfate soils on the coastal plain, and uncharted pastoral infrastructure catch builders out every year. Your contract must explicitly grant both an extension of time and delay costs the moment your excavator hits a latent condition. Never sign a contract containing a warranty that you have satisfied yourself with the site conditions if the principal has not given you the time, data, or physical access to actually inspect them. The final phase covers the work you build and how you exit. Variations are the single most common source of payment disputes on any WA construction site. The trap here is procedural. If your site manager proceeds with a scope change based on a verbal instruction from the superintendent, the contract gives the principal the power to reject the claim. You do the work, and you do it for free. Post-completion, you face the defects liability period. Onerous contracts will attempt to tie the start of this liability window to external events outside your control, like the execution of a commercial lease, pushing your obligations out by years. In residential construction, it's critical to remember that the contractual DLP is only a fraction of your actual exposure. Your contractual obligations sit right alongside the statutory warranties under the Home Building Contracts Act, which keep you liable for structural items for up to 6 years. Finally, we reach termination. The immediate red flag is a one-way termination right, where the principal can walk away for convenience, but you have absolutely no mutual rights if they commit a breach. If they do terminate for convenience, inspect the payout formula. A fair exit compensates you for work done, demobilization, and uncancelable orders. Hostile drafting limits you strictly to reasonable costs and zeroes out your profit. Securing a clean exit mechanism and a definitive boundary for handover prevents the project from bleeding out your margin long after the tools are down. Protecting your margin comes down to a systematic pre-signing review. Always read the special conditions annexure first. The standard general conditions are the baseline. The special conditions are where the principal rewrites the rules in their favor. Scan the document for specific trap phrases. Words like condition precedent signal a lethal time bar. Phrases like, at the principal's sole discretion, remove objective standards, making every single dispute an uphill battle. Watch out for fit-for-purpose warranties on construct-only jobs, which massively inflate your liability, or sole and exclusive remedy clauses that block your legal avenues for recovery. Know when to escalate. If you receive a special conditions annexure over 10 pages long, notice time bars under 10 days, or an uncapped liability clause, pick up the phone and call a construction lawyer. And if the indemnity language goes beyond the standard AS 4000 baseline, send it straight to your insurance broker before you sign. Broad indemnities are where uninsured exposure hides. A thorough legal review takes a few hours. Arguing a bad clause in court takes years. The cheapest and most effective time to fix a hostile contract is right now, before you put your signature on the line.